right, moving on to our next match. It was supposed to be an exciting clash. Turned out to be a cagey affair between Manchester City and Arsenal. I'd like to invite City fan Naveen and Cheyenne, who is actually a Manchester United supporter, on to the next segment of the podcast where we'll discuss Manchester City's 1-0 win over Arsenal. Hi, Naveen. Hi, Cheyenne.
Hi, Supreet. Hi, Shan.
Hey, hi, Sapri. Hi, Naveen.
All right, so let's start with the home team. Naveen, what are your thoughts on the match? City with a much needed win, obviously. This was supposed to be an open, entertaining affair, but it seems like both managers just tactically outwitted each other. It seemed to be a very cagey affair, and it could have either been a nil-nil or a 1-1, but it was settled with a single goal.
Yeah, true. Very important for City though. After a loss and a draw, and I guess in this case, Arteta, since because he has closely worked with Pep very recently, he obviously knew a thing or two even more about how Pep would set up his team, and he succeeded in getting most of his tactics right. It was, as you said, a closely fought match, and it could have gone either way, but thankfully we won. So I guess yeah. City and Arsenal didn't really cancel out each other, but so it was the case of both the managers knowing each other very well.
Yeah,
And Pep, I guess, in certain situations, tried to change things a bit because Cancelo was playing up ahead for some time in the first half, and Sterling
yeah,
was not really playing as a winger in the first half again. And so, yeah, but thankfully, City defense was relatively better. Not completely confident. That surety was lacking, but it was better than previous matches. And Ederson again made some, I guess, two crucial saves. So all in all,
yeah.
yeah, very close indeed. But Arsenal gave a very good fight. I mean, after a long time in the Premier League, but they were actually very good.
Okay. And Shine, what did you think about Arsenal's performance? Especially, given that this is yet another test of, for Arteta. We've had a dismal. Arsenal has had a dismal record away from home, and that seems to be continuing. Do you think it was? Do you think you could have done something differently? Probably set up differently. What do you think went wrong?
It was a pretty open game in that sense. I know you mentioned KG, but then I think both these teams and both the managers have a pretty similar, sense about the tactical aspect of the game, and it was a clash of the tactical acumen between Pep and Arteta. It seems that obviously Guardiola has edged out in this aspect. The I think the important part for me was the you mentioned setup and the absence of Lacazette in the team, and
Yeah,
he started with Villian, which was quite a bit of surprise for me since Lacazette has been in pretty good form from the beginning of the Premier League. I later I think I heard or read somewhere that Arteta wants a pretty flexible front line and he wants to go with the changes in the formation, and that's why he preferred Villian as against Lacazette. But then it might not have been a good idea to try an experiment kind of a formation against a pretty good side like Manchester City. That I think sort of helped City quite a bit in terms of Arsenal not conjuring too many chances as such. Aubameyang also on the left hand side, although he has played on the left hand side, and he drifted in to the center between the three of them, Willian, Aubameyang, and Pepe. But I think Aubameyang and Lacazette have a little sort of connection as we say it, and they prefer playing with each other. So that I think that aspect was evident. But otherwise, I think it was an honest attempt from Arsenal. They tried very well. I think this is everyone keeps on saying that Arsenal is on the move in terms of the steel that Arteta wants to bring into the team. Maybe in some other years this could have been a very different result, but looks like Arsenal is on the upward curve. But it will take some more time in terms of the attack-minded game that Arteta wants to do. So yeah.
right. You mentioned an interesting point about Arsenal's front line. Obviously, Aubameyang starting on the left and Willian starting in the center, right? Uh, it doesn't seem to be working for the simple reason that apart from the first match against Fulham, we've struggled against. Struggled to get going against Sheffield United, West Ham. We won both those matches, and it's just not worked against Liverpool and City where we've lost, right? Why do you think? Why do you think Arteta is persisting with Willian instead of playing Lacazette, who typically tends to drop backwards? Willian also does that, but against City, he had only like three successful passes to Pepe, who didn't perform very well, and actually zero passes to Aubameyang. Right? What do you think is behind this reasoning to actually play Aubameyang on the left? Where where you think he might actually score a bucket load of goals from the center.
I think in one of the previous podcasts you had mentioned about the uncertainty surrounding Pepe, right? And I think it sort of reflects on the team selection that Arteta comes up with. I think he's a little bit of in an unsure kind of a situation as to who the best formation is. That's why I think the mention after the post match about I want to try different formations. So I think he's tried with Willian on the right in the first couple of games, and Willian, as we know, has never sort of even with Chelsea later on. He thrives more as a right or left, sort of on the wing where he can put in his crosses and sometimes come in between. So he has thrived in that, and maybe putting him in that kind of a false nine or a typical nine role didn't suit him. The reason being, I think, as I said, he's trying to chalk out a concrete kind of a setup going ahead. Um Pepe, I think, as you said, we are not sure with him. He might be pretty flamboyant from time to time, or he might just come up with a lovely curler from the edge of the box. But then you do not know when that's going to happen. You do not know if it's going to be on a regular basis and all. Uh, Aubameyang also, I think he's preferably, started on the left, and that has, I think, a couple of goals here and there. So I think to fit in Lacazette is more of a on the mold of a number nine that Arteta believes in. So that's why he's played him through the middle, and Aubameyang has that little kind of that pace on the flanks, and I think he wants to see the flying left back and Aubameyang combine to create much more chances. Even for in this game, Tierney and Saka and Aubameyang on the left, where Saka drifted in to the left, and all the attacks, if we see, were much more from the left hand side of Arsenal as compared to the right. The right was almost invisible from time to time. So there is a clear preference for the attacks of Arsenal, and Tierney and Saka and Aubameyang did fulfill that. But then that gives that question whether Aubameyang is much more suited to a number nine, or should he be, or should Arteta be continuing with this kind of role on the left hand side on the flanks. Well, it brings some sort of different kind of an aspect, but then you might miss out on the lethal aspect of Aubameyang, which is scoring goals, and he might better be suited at a typical number nine rather than on the flanks.
Right. So moving from one prolific striker Aubameyang to another, Sergio Aguero obviously returning to Manchester City's squad after I think it is 4 months out. So Naveen, what did you think of Aguero's performance? We'll obviously talk about uh, him touching the referee a little bit later, but overall, how did you think his return went?
So he lacked the usual sharpness, sure, but I'm expecting him to get better with each game. And next game is versus West Ham, which usually is a high-scoring game where City score a lot of goals. So hopefully he can at least score and get into the rhythm. But yeah, at least next game he should score. And if he continues to have a good run of matches and a good season overall, I mean,
Yeah.
we should be in a good place with him.
Right. So, do you think so? City didn't seem very creative in the sense. I think they definitely did miss De Bruyne. They missed Gabriel.
Yes.
I'm sorry, they missed Gabriel Jesus. Um, but overall, I think they had enough to put 3 points across the line. Um, so, what do you think City's preferred attacking line is going to be now that Aguero is fit? Do you think he's going to continue starting, or do you see Gabriel Jesus returning to the lineup if he is fit?
I certainly see Aguero starting all the games whenever he is fit. But
Hmm.
considering Pep is kind of, I don't know, trying to figure out what formation and what positions the players should play in. So it could be a lot of changes as we have seen in the first 4 or 5 matches. And I am expecting some more changes before he gets his formation right. So
Yeah,
occasionally Jesus comes in, but I think Aguero would start most of the games.
right. And what did you think of the incident with the referee?
So initially, I was personally very irritated. I mean, the way I saw it live, so the first reaction was, terrible behavior. But then Aguero
Hmm.
is not someone who he's generally very calm and he's not of that kind of a his nature is not that of that kind. So I don't know. I mean, now as far as equality is concerned, he could have done the same thing to a male referee too, and probably people wouldn't have talked much. And that usually happens. Players do touch referees, so very controversial. But yeah, initial reaction bad. But if you go to see, just another referee.
So, do you think Aguero should be made an example of, probably being handed over a fine, if not a ban, or do you think this incident should, just be, forgotten?
So I think he should be talked about this behind the scenes, sure. But I don't think so. There'll be a fine or anything. Because normally when it happens to other referees, if it's a bit harsh, there is a card. But otherwise, the play just goes on. So should be okay.
Right. And finally, the final talking point for City is obviously going to be Raheem Sterling, the match winner.
Yeah.
He's obviously proven to be, City's most important player this season, at least, if not last season. Um, do you think City are kind of relying a lot on his goals? He's obviously scored a lot of goals last season, and he's turning out to be a very important player in the squad. But beyond that, if without say De Bruyne or Mahrez not still getting back into his usual best, do you think City are probably relying on Sterling a lot these days?
So it's good for us that he's in a great form as far as his goal scoring is concerned. It really helps us in the absence of a striker. We have been dealing with it since
Hmm.
the last few matches. So it really helps. And also the thing is, currently, he's not always playing as a winger.
Yeah,
So many
that's correct.
times he is playing as the striker, or a bit of false nine,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
eventually that allows him to score more goals. For
right.
example, Foden was playing as a winger on the left for most of the time in the previous match,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
in fact, Sterling scored when the keeper saved. After the keeper saved,
yeah,
so it's not that we are overly relying on him. It's about the kind of position he's playing in. And as far as creating chances is concerned, Mahrez is getting closer. He's creating chances, but not able to score yet. Aguero is back, so I see others also scoring goals for sure.
yeah. All right. Thanks, Naveen, for that interesting discussion about Manchester City. Before we close this particular segment on today's podcast, I'd quickly like to get Cheyenne back. So, Cheyenne, how impressed are you with Arsenal's young midfielder Bukayo Saka?
I am just fascinated by him, Supreet. I think we mentioned about him on the last podcast as well. I have been immensely impressed with him. I think, and I think this has been talked about amongst the pundits and on Sky and other channels as well. I think the most intriguing part about Saka is his never die attitude to just run with the ball and create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
We talked about Arsenal bringing Arteta bringing in the steel to the team and trying out different formations, and that might often lead to a sort of nothing at the end of the day in terms of the score sheet. But I
Yeah.
think Saka always tries to get that edge into the team in terms of either even if his work rate without the ball, if he has the ball and if there is a couple of defenders on him, he'll still make a run down the flanks and try to get that cross in. So
Yeah.
I think that dogged approach or that mental attitude that he has at such a young age is gonna reap dividends for this Arsenal team, who is still in that nascent stage of being set up by Arteta. I
Yeah.
think the other aspect which I really like is the versatility of Saka. I think he's played as a left back. He's played sort of down the flanks also as a winger. And
Yeah.
I think if Arteta wants, I think he can play in other positions as well on in the pitch. So if you have that kind of a versatile player and that too at such a young age in your team, I think the
Mm.
manager is going to be really happy with someone going forward. I think he's a treasure for Arsenal in the coming days.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Shine, for your thoughts on City versus Arsenal.